Ladies and gentlemen, every storm that touches our lives carries two options. It can either drown us in fear or elevate us into faith. The question is not whether the storm will come. The question is, what frequency will you meet it with? You see, when chaos swirls around us, when life shakes us to our core, our nervous system wants to react, fight, flee, freeze. But trusting God in the storm requires us to go against our condition. It demands that we rise above the old self, the self rooted in limitation, control, and survival, and awaken a higher state of being, one that remembers God is not out there somewhere, God is within. When we truly trust, we do something radical to our biology. Our thoughts shift, our hearts open. Our brain waves slow down. The chemistry of fear begins to dissolve, and a new signal is sent through the body. A signal that says, I am safe even in this. That signal is not just emotional, it's electromo. We've been conditioned to view adversity as punishment. The moment life doesn't go according to plan, when the job falls through, the relationship breaks, the diagnosis comes, the silence grows, we slip into survival mode. We label it a curse. We fight it. We resist it. But what if the storm is not here to destroy us? What if it's here to reveal us? The human body is biologically programmed to seek comfort and predictability. Neurologically, we crave the familiar, even when the familiar is dysfunctional. Our brain becomes addicted to the chemical state of our daily emotions: anxiety, worry, doubt. So when a storm comes and disrupts that rhythm, our nervous system panics. But beneath that panic lies an invitation, the chance to break the cycle and initiate a new one. The storm acts as an energetic disruptor. It shakes loose all the structures we built from fear and control. The habits we formed just to feel as safe, the personas we created to be accepted, the beliefs we held on to that were never even ours. These begin to fracture under pressure, not because we're being punished, but because who we really are is being called to the surface. You see, change never happens inside comfort zones. Growth does not happen when everything is calm and controlled. Transformation is born in friction and uncertainty, in the space between what was and what is trying to emerge. The storm doesn't come to curse you. It comes to crack you open so that dormant energy, potential, purpose, divine connection can rise up from within. When you begin to observe your pain without identifying with it, when you become the witness instead of the victim, you start to see the storm for what it truly is. A portal, a divine reset, a neurological rewiring. And in that shift, you begin to create coherence between your heart and mind. You begin to tell a new story in your body. You move from survival chemistry to creation chemistry. Even biologically, stress is only meant to be temporary. But so many of us live in perpetual storms internally, even when the outer world is calm. Why? Because we never learn to alchemize disruption into direction. We never learn to lean into the storm and ask, what is this trying to teach me? What part of me is ready to evolve? The moment you stop labeling the storm as a bad and start approaching it as information, feedback from a higher intelligence, you stop being afraid of it. You stop resisting the energy and begin collaborating with it. And that's where the shift begins. Let me know if you'd like the next keynote expanded too. We are vibrational beings living in a vibrational universe. Every thought we think, every feeling we feel emits a frequency, and that frequency is not just invisible energy, it is intelligence. It communicates with everything around us, shaping the reality we perceive, and more importantly, drawing into our experience what matches our internal state. Most people attempt to connect with God, with Source, with the divine through thought alone. But thought on its own is electric. It sends the signal out. What draws the response back, what magnetizes experience, is emotion. And not just any emotion, elevated emotion. The kind of feeling that transcends logic and opens the heart. Gratitude, compassion, joy, reverence, love. These are not just feelings. They are high-frequency states of being that align us with the intelligence that created galaxies. When we enter an elevated emotional state, we shift our biology. The brain begins to move out of high beta, stress, analysis, survival, and into alpha and theta, where creativity, intuition, and healing happen. The heart, which has its own electromagnetic field and intelligence, begins to beat in coherent rhythm. And when the brain and the heart fall into harmony, the body becomes the instrument of alignment. In that space, we are not asking to connect with the divine. We are the connection. The problem is, most people wait for a reason to feel elevated. They wait for the miracle before they feel grateful. They wait for the breakthrough before they allow joy. But divine connection doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you broadcast. The emotional signature you carry becomes your access point. And when that signature is heavy with fear, resentment, or victimhood, we close ourselves off from receiving the very guidance and clarity we seek. Elevated emotion is not a byproduct of spiritual connection. It is the gateway. It lifts us out of the contraction of fear and places us in expansion. It moves us from survival into creation. In these states, the body is no longer focused on danger, and the soul is free to tune into subtle realms of intelligence, ideas, healing, insight, downloads from beyond the mind. Gratitude especially is a key. Not the gratitude we perform out of politeness, but the visceral, embodied gratitude that comes from knowing that what we seek already exists in the quantum field, and our trust in that truth calls it forth. When we feel it in advance, when we embody the result before it materializes, we collapse time between desire and manifestation. Because in that moment, we've matched the frequency of the divine. We're no longer pleading. We're participating. And in elevated states, something else happens. Our perception expands. We begin to see possibility where we once saw dead ends. We begin to notice synchronicities, small signs, invisible threads that lead us. The external may not have changed yet, but we have changed. And because of that, reality begins to reorganize around our new vibration. Not through effort, but through resonance. Would you like the next keynote expanded to? The external world is not the true origin of our suffering. What disturbs our peace more often than not is the internal climate we've unknowingly created and rehearsed for years through thought. Every single thought you think carries an electrical charge, a chemical cascade, and an emotional echo. It is not just a fleeting spark in your brain. It is a command, a script, a signal sent out to your nervous system, your cells, your energy field, and the universe itself. When we live on autopilot, when we allow our thoughts to repeat from yesterday, most of which are based in fear, doubt, judgment, and limitation, we recreate the same emotional atmosphere day after day. The thoughts trigger the feelings reinforce the thoughts, and this loop becomes our inner weather system. For some, it's a constant drizzle of worry. For others, a dense fog of confusion. For many, it's a thunderstorm of self-doubt that never seems to pass. But here's the truth most never realize. Thoughts are not facts. They are not absolute. They are programs. And like any program, they can be rewritten. The mind is neuroplastic. It responds to repetition, intention, and awareness. When you change your thoughts not once, but consistently and consciously, you begin to alter the emotional tone of your entire being. What most people don't understand is that their body becomes addicted to the emotional states that their thoughts generate. If you spent years thinking thoughts of unworthiness, your body becomes chemically wired to feel unworthy. So even when you try to think a new thought, one of worthiness or power, it feels foreign. It feels untrue, not because it's not true, but because your body is out of sync with the new thought. Your internal weather is still operating under an old forecast. This is why conscious thought isn't enough. You must teach the body what the mind has learned. You must become aware of your internal dialogue, not from a place of judgment, but from the higher seat of observation. Begin to listen to your thoughts like you would observe clouds passing in the sky. Not all of them need to be believed. Not all of them are aligned with your truth. And in that space between stimulus and response, you gain the power to choose. When you wake up in the morning and begin your day with intention, when you sit in stillness and direct your mind toward gratitude, possibility, healing, trust, you don't just feel better. You begin to shift the electromagnetic field around your body. You start to signal to your cells, your immune system, your hormones that it's safe to evolve, that you are no longer at war with life, but in harmony with something deeper. You create coherence, and with it, clarity. The thoughts you repeatedly entertain become the architecture of your identity. And identity is what creates behavior, decisions, and ultimately, destiny. Most people are trying to change their life without first changing the inner climate they carry into every room, every conversation, every challenge. They expect the world to shift while their inner storm continues to rage. But the mind, when focused and coherent, becomes the first cause in the chain of transformation. Your thoughts are not small. They are not background noise. They are the brushstrokes painting your internal sky. Would you like me to expand the next section? Stillness is your superpower in chaos? In a world where speed is worshipped, where distraction is constant, and where noise fills every crack of silence, stillness can seem unnatural, almost threatening. And yet, in moments of chaos, it is not action that saves us first. It is alignment. It is the ability to return to the eye of the storm within, where movement ceases and clarity begins to emerge. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is not passive. It is not passive. It is not active receptivity. It is the space between the inhale and the exhale where time slows and awareness sharpens. In chaos, the survival mind wants to react, to control, to fix. But in that reactive state, the brain produces high beta waves, anxious, erratic, narrow. We lose the big picture. We disconnect from our higher intelligence. We begin to operate from the past instead of potential. But stillness interrupts that pattern. When you become still, you disengage from the conditioned responses of the ego and create space for something more refined to take the lead. You create room for divine intelligence to move through you rather than being drowned out by mental noise. Stillness is how we tune the signal. It's how we align our frequency with the field of infinite intelligence that doesn't live in the future or the past. It lives. In that stillness, the body begins to regulate, the heart moves into coherence, the breath deepens, the nervous system settles, and when the body feels safe, when it's not bracing for attack, it opens, it listens, and in that receptivity, insights arrive. Solutions appear not because we forced them, but because we became available to receive them. Stillness is not just spiritual, it is biological. It is neurochemical. It allows us to shift from the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, into the parasympathetic rest, restore, regenerate. And from that space, we no longer meet chaos with chaos. We become the counterbalance. We become the presence that transforms rather than reacts. But stillness is not something we stumble into by accident. It must be cultivated, practiced, honored. It must be chosen over the compulsion to scroll, to speak, to rush, to analyze. It is found in the silence between thoughts, in the pause before speaking, in the breath taken instead of the reaction given. And the more we visit this space, the more familiar it becomes, not as a luxury, but as a necessity. A baseline, a sanctuary within that chaos cannot corrupt. Because the truth is, external chaos is inevitable. The world will shake, the unexpected will come, the storm will hit. But when we have cultivated stillness as a state of being, as a practiced presence, we no longer collapse into the moment. We hold it, we breathe with it. And in doing so, we become conduits for a peace that is not of this world but moves through with power. Would you like to continue with the next expansion? The unknown is where miracles live. The unknown is a space most people fear because it is without guarantees, without structure, without a map. The human mind is wired for predictability. It draws safety from what it can label, categorize, control. And yet, all true transformation, all transcendence, all miracles exist beyond the boundaries of what we know. The known is constructed from memory. It is yesterday's emotions, beliefs, and experiences looping in familiar patterns. The known is the repetition of your past identity. And as long as you stay there, you may feel safe, but you cannot evolve. You cannot receive what you've never experienced by thinking the way you always have. You cannot step into divine destiny while clinging to the illusion of control. The unknown, however, is the field of potential. It is the quantum playground where all possibilities exist at once. It is the realm where the divine has full permission to operate without the interference of your conditions, limitations. And though it may feel disorienting, stepping into the unknown is not about becoming lost. It's about becoming available. In this sacred space beyond certainty, your ego no longer leads, because it cannot predict and it cannot perform. Here, only the authentic self can stand. The self that is connected not to survival, but to surrender, to trust, to the whisper of something greater than logic. And this is where the miracle begins to form, not from the mind, but from the frequency of faith. Most people wait for the path to be lit before they take the first step. But in the unknown, the path is created by the step. You move forward not because you see where it's going, but because you feel where it's coming from. You become the co-creator, not the controller. You begin to align your energy not with what has been, but with what could be, if you were willing to let go of what you've outgrown. Even your biology shifts in this process. When you trust the unknown, you step out of the biochemical patterning of stress and begin producing the chemistry of expansion. You change the electromagnetic signature of your being. Your heart opens to possibility. Your brain reorganizes to accommodate vision instead of fear. The body starts responding to a future it has not yet lived, but already believes. And in that vibrational shift, something profound happens. You begin to draw into your life the improbable, the inexplicable, the moments that cannot be logically explained but feel undeniably orchestrated. Not because you forced them into being, but because you made yourself available to a field where miracles are natural, not rare, where synchronicity is not a coincidence, but a consequence of alignment. Let me know when you're ready for the final expansion. Trust is the frequency that attracts breakthrough. Trust is not a concept. It is not a passive hope or a fragile wish. It is a state of being, a vibrational frequency. A powerful energetic posture that declares to the universe, I am aligned with something greater than what I see. I believe in what I have not yet touched. Trust is the invisible architecture beneath all miraculous change. It is the internal atmosphere that allows the impossible to find form. When you trust not occasionally, not conditionally, but fully, you begin to emit a very different signal from your body. This signal is not tense. It is not begging. It is not fighting for outcomes. It is coherent. It is open. It is magnetic. And this signal does not go unnoticed by the field. Because the field, the quantum intelligence that permeates everything, is responsive. It mirrors back not what you say you want, but what you truly believe you are aligned with. Most people block their own breakthrough because they are operating from doubt while asking for transformation. They visualize the new but vibrate with the old. Their mind says yes, but their energy says a maybe. And so, the signal they emit is fractured, inconsistent, unstable, and the results they see reflect that same fragmentation. But when you embody trust, your frequency stabilizes. You stop second-guessing the process. You stop checking the horizon every 5 minutes to see if it's working. You become the version of yourself that already received the answer, even before it has arrived. And in doing so, you collapse the distance between desire and manifestation. Because you are no longer waiting for the breakthrough. You are living in resonance with it. Trust transforms your relationship with time. You stop rushing. You stop forcing. You understand that what is for you is already in motion, already orchestrated, already guided. You understand that delay is not denial, it is divine sequencing. And so you shift from pressure into presence, from proving into allowing, from control into communion. At the level of biology, trust calms the fear circuits in the brain. It reduces cortisol, slows the heart, deepens the breath. It tells the body, we are safe. And when the body feels safe, it unlocks its innate intelligence, regeneration, creativity, intuition. In this state, you become a receiver of insight, timing, clarity, not because you chased it, but because your energy matched it. Trust is not weakness. It is the ultimate strength. It is the refusal to collapse under what appears to be falling apart. It is the audacity to believe that even now, even in this, something higher is at work. And in that frequency, you don't just attract breakthrough. You become the space through which breakthrough is inevitable. Let me know if you'd like this entire collection formatted for a live delivery, spoken word, or visual post flow. I'd be glad to help shape it for the platform you have in mind. The storm was never your enemy. It was the initiation, the sacred disruption that invited you to remember who you are, not as a victim of circumstance, but as a vessel of divine intelligence. Every gust of wind, every crash of thunder, every unanswered question was designed to shake loose what no longer served you, to call you back into alignment with the deeper current beneath the chaos. Because the real battleground was never outside of you. It was always the inner weather. The thoughts you repeat, the emotions you rehearse, the narratives you've accepted as truth. But when you reclaim your stillness in the center of it all, when you shift from reactivity into receptivity, you begin to tune into something far greater than logic. You begin to walk with the frequency of God. And in that frequency, you no longer need to see the entire path to know you are being led. You trust, not because you see the outcome, but because you know the source. You allow elevated emotion to open the portal. You align your thoughts with truth, your energy with peace, your body with surrender. You stop clinging to the known and you step boldly into the field where miracles live. The unknown is not your undoing, it is your unveiling. And trust becomes your compass, not passive, not fragile, but fierce. The kind of trust that attracts breakthrough because it no longer needs to chase it. The kind of trust that transforms the storm into sacred ground. The kind of trust that walks calmly into chaos, not because it is fearless, but because it is anchored in a presence far more powerful than fear. This is where we meet God, not beyond the storm, but within it. Not once the winds die down, but while they roar around us. Because to trust God in every storm is not just to survive. It is to become the storm's purpose fulfilled. Let me know if you'd like a condensed version for a slide, social post, or something more poetic and shorter. And it begins to attract divine outcomes before we even see the path.